Good morning, brothers. Good morning, Father. I hope you are in a good condition there, all of you. Today I will be reporting the part 1 of the Synod of 1974, Evangelii, Nuntiandi, and Liberation. The flow of the report is divided into two parts. I will be reporting the part 1 of the report, and Brother Lister will be reporting the part 2. So, as we can see, the Synod of 1974 is a synod that came after the Synod of 1971 that was convoked also during the time of Pope Paul. It follows here that the Synod of 1974, during the discussions and during the preliminaries of the Synod, it came out that there was a controversy happened among the bishops. And so, one of the response of Pope Paul was to brought out another document as a response to the Synod of 1974, and that would be the Evangelii Nuntiandi. So first, we will try to explain and understand what happened during the Synod of 1974. So first, there was an issues and challenges that was tackled during this Synod. First is the issue of small ecclesial communities in the African church, patterned in the basic ecclesial communities of Latin America. And secondly, there was a particular interest in the issue of dialogue with the great non-Christian religions in Asia. And thirdly, the 1971 Synod's statement that action on behalf of justice is a constitutive dimension of the preaching of the gospel. Brothers, Evangelii Nuntiandi, the document of Evangelii Nuntiandi is very wide. It has a context of a wide range. That is why the focus of the report is particularly about our core subject, which is the social justice. And the main contribution of this document is about the liberation, wherein Pope Paul would try to have a theological analysis of the word liberation. And that is why he wanted to answer back, or he wanted to have a response on the statement that action on behalf of justice is a constitutive dimension of the preaching of the gospel. So now we proceed to the response of Pope Paul, which is the Evangelii Nuntiandi. So there are three concepts that we need to understand for us to see what does Pope Paul try to explain in the Evangelii Nuntiandi about social justice, or about his main contribution, liberation. So first, kingdom. So it is stated here in the document, if you would see, in Evangelii Nuntiandi number 8, and I quote, "As the one who proclaims the gospel, Christ announces above all a kingdom, which is the kingdom of God. He attributes so much importance to this kingdom that by comparison with it, everything else becomes the other thing that shall be added unto you. Therefore, the kingdom of God must be treated as an absolute to which everything else must be referred." That is taken in Evangelii Nuntiandi number 8. So you can check out your documents there. So the primary concern here is that kingdom, Christ's primary concern, and so the church must not be seen as an end itself. It is not, the church should not be seen as an end itself. It is because to build the kingdom of God is not confined to what might be called the churchy activities or actions that are spiritual. It includes secular activity that works in overcoming oppressive or inhuman structures in society. So, what Pope Paul was trying to brought out here is that the church does not only concern about the activities inside the church. It is not only concerned about the religious aspect of the church, but he said and he stated, he gave emphasis on this, that the church must engage in a secular activity that works in overcoming the oppressive or inhuman structures in society. So that is what the kingdom meant by Pope Paul. Now, the second key concept here is the word evangelization. So Pope Paul tried to explain that evangelization is witnessing that requires presence, a sharing of life, and solidarity. Therefore, proclamation of the word is also essential that gives meaning to the witnessing. Pope Paul claimed that witness without words may remain ambiguous or opaque, and words without witness lack credibility. The Pope rejects the older theology which assumes that worldly activity are just preparation for the gospel. This theology does not easily show that action for justice is a constitutive dimension in evangelization in the proper sense. You can see that in Evangelii Nuntiandi number 21 to 22, and number 41 to 42. Okay? So, what the Pope Paul is trying to say here, is trying to explain here is that evangelization is composed of witnessing and proclaiming the word. They must complement with each other to have a perfect and productive evangelization. So he claimed that it is not enough that proclaiming the word without action is not proclaiming is not enough, but there should be a witness. A witness is not enough, but there should be also a content of that witness, and that is the proclaiming of the word. And that is evangelization. Thirdly, the main contribution of Evangelii Nuntiandi as a response to the Synod of 1974 is the keyword liberation. So the document has stated a lot of explanation about the word liberation here. So it is a further step required to show that while privilege place should be given to action for justice over and above many other kinds of secular work. But of course, we need to understand what does liberation meant by Pope Paul. So, as we proceed here, in the third point, salvation and liberation. The document speaks of liberation, of being free from everything that oppresses people, particularly from sin and the evil one. However, it does not replace the word salvation, or even see as tantamount to it, rather it is a gift from God. So therefore, evangelization means good news, a good news from Jesus that includes liberation from everything that oppresses people, economic, political, cultural oppression. Pope Paul is concerned in communicating the vision of evangelization that transcends any division such as religious versus secular or temporal versus spiritual. So we can see here the mindset of Pope Paul. He is very integral in explaining the word liberation. For him, liberation does not mean something that is revolutionary, but for him, liberation is somehow a development. It is a development for us to see and for us to help the people to be free from any from any economic, political, cultural oppression. And this would be explained by Brother Lister later on the part 2 of the report, because we can see here that the mindset of Pope Paul is a very integral. He is not a one-sided person, but rather he tries to balance everything in this document. So that is liberation. One more thing is that salvation and liberation, these are two different concepts. Salvation does not mean liberation, and liberation does not mean salvation. Because salvation is a gift from God, and liberation are the human activities for us to see and seek the salvation that God is offering to us. Now, we proceed to the concerns about misunderstandings. So I will explain to you the three concerns about misunderstandings, and the other will be explained by Brother Lister later on. So first, the concept of reductionism. Here, the Pope claims that a concern that the liberation foreshadowed by Christ and promoted by the Church might be reduced to a much more limited version of liberation. So liberation is not limited. No? It is not a limited version. Why? Because if we will try to reduce the meaning and the concept of liberation, it follows. Pope Paul insisted that liberation is concerned to the totality. Again, the mindset of Pope Paul is the integral, the whole, the wide, the range, the whole human being, the whole concept of the human being, the totality of human being in all its aspects and elements, which includes the openness to what is absolute, to the human person, and even to God, to what is the absolute. Thus, liberation is not limited to the scope of economic, political, social, or cultural dimension, but it is very integral. It includes the totality of human being. So it cannot be reduced. That is one of the misunderstandings of the word liberation. If we will try to reduce it, it will follow that everything in the church will be reduced also. The activities of the church and the explanation of the church about liberation would also be reduced. Secondly, politicization. It is concerned about an excessive politicization role of the church. If the concept of liberation is reduced, it follows that the church would be confined to the purely political or social order. The document claims that the church is offering an integral vision of what it means to be human, an anthropology that includes a theology of redemption. Pope Paul ensured that the church's commitment to liberation could not be interpreted as support for Marxist ideology or any political ideology. During the year of 1974, we would go back in our history. The Marxist ideology was also strengthened during this time, and that is why Pope Paul was very careful in saying that the church must not be politicized. The church does not support any political ideology, especially the Marxist ideology, but rather it has the integral vision in supporting and helping the church. It includes a theology of redemption. And lastly, inherent limitations. The church sees the links between human liberation and salvation in Jesus Christ, but does not consider the two to be identical as it was explained here. And if you will check out your document, it is located in Evangelii Nuntiandi number 35. Earthly liberation and prosperity might be attained, but it does not immediately mean that they establish the coming of the kingdom of God, because all temporal, remember, all temporal and political liberation has its own seed of failure. Liberation has its inherent limitations that tend to grow and to create a widening gap between the ideal salvation that is being reached for a limited degree of liberation that has been achieved. So Pope Paul would claim that the inherent limitation of liberation is that it would always have a kind of seed of failure. Because, as I said, liberation and salvation are not identical, because salvation is a gift from God and liberation is caused by human activities for us to seek the salvation, the gift of salvation that comes from God. So that is the inherent limitation or limitations of the liberation. As a summary of the part 1 of the report, again, we have tackled the introduction of the Synod of 1974, the issues and challenges, the controversy that happened, and at the same time the fresh insights, the new insights that came in because of the participation of the African Church, the South America Church, and of course the Church of the Asian Community. Secondly, we have discussed the response of Pope Paul on the Synod of 1974, which is the Evangelii Nuntiandi. And Evangelii Nuntiandi has three concepts: the kingdom, the evangelization, and liberation. And as I've said a while ago, the concept of salvation and liberation are not identical, but rather they are different with each other, because salvation is a gift from God, and liberation is a human understanding or human activities. And the concerns about misunderstandings, the reductionism, wherein if we limit or if we reduce the concept of liberation, everything will follow. At the same time, politicization, that the church is not only contained in the political social order, but it includes the integral anthropology of the human being. And thirdly, the inherent limitations, wherein liberation has an inherent limitation, and that is the seed of failure. The other concerns about misunderstanding would be reported by Brother Lister in the part 2 of this report. And it follows, we will be summarizing in total the report of the Synod of 1974, Evangelii Nuntiandi, and liberation. That would be all. Thank you, and good day.